Alright, my name is Dan Duffy and I'm here with Asher Zundel. And today we're going to be discussing the pros and cons of driverless cars or automated vehicles. So Asher, how do you feel about driverless cars?
I think driverless cars are a very good prospect for the future as a form of technology.
Yeah, can you say more to that?
In terms of being a little bit lacking in terms of being able to implement driverless cars on the road for today.
So,
I think the best example I could probably use would be the example of I believe it was the Google car. It came to a four-way stop sign.
oh yeah?
And the computer was programmed such that it would wait for all the other vehicles to come to a complete stop at the four-way stop before, continuing the drive.
Mm-hmm.
But, as we all know, nobody comes to a complete stop at a four-way stop. People
Absolutely,
kind of just roll through. So the car was just stuck there kind of for, I think it was 2 hours or something crazy like that, and until somebody came and reprogrammed the computer. It was just examples like that where, wouldn't be completely implementable.
So what you're saying is the technology is not quite there yet, but it could present potential future benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so to kind of speak to that, I guess it's really what direction the infrastructure goes in. Are we going to be able to get the technology to the point where it'll be able to, drive with other people on the road, or will we have to transition as a society to a completely driverless?
Yeah, do you think that the technology is comprehensive enough where the cars be able to recognize and map out day-to-day transitions and differences in infrastructure? Like, let's say, a tree fell on the road. Would a car be able to recognize it, or would it run straight through it?
Okay, so cars there's these detection systems that they have. I think one of the most advanced ones is the LiDAR.
Okay.
It's kind of a laser system on the side, like an infrared laser system on the sides of cars, and it uses detection to detect the surroundings. So, for example, at higher end cars, I think the Mercedes S-Class or something, use detection systems like that for their parking systems and their braking systems. I think that also paired with the GPS system that we have, our global positioning system, that kind of takes real time, or it has the capability of knowing, triangulating your position and taking real time photos.
Yeah. What do you think about the economic benefits, or maybe the cons to these cars? I feel like maybe they could take away jobs from truckers or other people that drive for a living, like taxi cab drivers.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to consider. I think you actually may have mentioned earlier that Volvo tested a 18-wheeler truck driverless pretty successfully. So there's things like that where maybe, it's a possibility that driverless vehicles are just, taking over the jobs of truck drivers like that, so they don't have to drive 12-hour shifts or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about the economic benefits of driverless cars? Do you think it makes things more efficient?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of that, I think if we transition as a society to driverless vehicles, we could kind of integrate it into a more of a carpool system.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the computer would be able to recognize maybe people in similar locations going to similar destinations, and be able to comprehensively map out the best drop. I don't know, something along those lines. Be able to probably map out the best route and things along those lines.
Absolutely. So, what do you think about the the idea that the technology isn't advanced enough to be like similar enough, comparable enough to like the human brain, and like even like the morality behind human cars. Like, if for example, if there was a child in the middle of the road, is the car more likely to hit the child or potentially injure or kill the passenger in the car by swerving?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely probably the biggest thing to consider. Kind of the biggest, probably back and forth with people discussing whether driverless cars are really the future because, in that split second, the human brain makes a snap decision of whether to, swerve the car and kind of harm themselves or do they just keep going? And the computer doesn't really have that same sense of intuition, so it's tough to say, and I don't really know. I guess it really all depends on which way the technology moves forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like there just really needs to be more steps taken before this technology can be really implemented in a real world setting.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of discussed the pros and cons of driverless vehicles. Asher's kind of enlightened me on the pro stance as opposed to what these technologies could potentially bring in the future. I have one last question, Asher.
Mm-hmm.
With like these different with like technological warfare the way it is today and all these hacking and whatnot, do you think that it's possible that these cars might be susceptible to some type of internet hacking that could mess with the technology and potentially harm other people?
That's actually a very good question. I mean, it's definitely, a very big problem we have today in our society, with everybody using technology and, hacking become more of a common thing. I mean, there was a recent, I think, example of the Jeep. People were even hacking into that computer and being able to control the acceleration and the braking system.
Wow, it's incredible.
So, with that danger out there, it's definitely something to consider. But, I think for the most part, there are computer softwares and protection systems that are, pretty protective of that kind of threat.
Yeah, and I feel like what you're saying is that kind of all technology can be influenced and harmed, so you shouldn't be fearful of kind of being more progressive because there's always that risk.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, that's been a great talk. Thank Asher very much for voluntarily interviewing, and thank you very much, Asher.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.